From BQE Restaurant and Lounge in the heart of Atlanta's historic Martin Luther King District, it's Newsmakers Live, bringing you the issues, politics, and perspective of the Atlanta community. Now in its 10th season, here is tonight's moderator and your host, 8-time Emmy Award-winning broadcast journalist, Mr. Maynard Eaton.
Thank you again, and welcome to the 10th season of Newsmakers Live. Joining me is a extraordinary political leader, but not necessarily a politician. He doesn't like to be called a politician at all. In fact, he's the flip side of that. He's a community activist who has served in the state Senate for 10 years now. Now, Senator Vincent 21 years in the state Senate. Under some trying circumstances dealing with the southern downstate Georgia legislators and risen to a position of power. State Senator Vincent Fort. Senator, why give up that clout you had in the state Senate and seniority and tenure and probably retirement money, I don't know, to run for a mayor's race in this crowded field? Why give up that security?
Well, because the mayor of the city of Atlanta is consequential, more consequential than a state senator, but consequential. $2.1 billion budget, including a general fund of $600 million, as well as watershed and the airport. So when you look at that, the kind of influence, the mayor's office in Atlanta is a strong mayor's office, has veto power, hires and fires department heads, including the chief of police. It is just structurally a very, very consequential office. I've been able to do some great things in the state Senate. Got $45 to $50 million for Atlanta Metropolitan College, Atlanta Technical College. Established the first disadvantaged business enterprise program for a state agency, for state money. The $900 million per year, HB 170 money, transportation money, so that African American businesses and other DBEs can access contracts for that $900 million per year. So I've been able to do some great things at the state. And
that's serious politicking. They don't just give that to you. You have to vote swapping, a whole lot of things.
Let me tell you this.
That ain't because they just like you.
No. This isn't a matter of whether you like Senator Ford or not. But I went in the room with Nathan Deal and sat across the table from him like we are now. He told me what he was willing to do, and I told him what I was willing to do. And the deal was cut. And, one of the things about deals is that you have to be, ever vigilant. Right. But you got to be able to cut deals, and I've been able to cut deals contrary to the common assumption that Senator Fort doesn't do deals, is just a loud and we're able. That DB program was created under a Republican regime.
Right.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah. But you have been characterized as agitator, activists who can make mayors, including the current one, belly up or have nightmares at night, that you really do strike fire and come strong against what you think is injustice or bad policy.
Oh, yeah. Well, but it's all policy driven. And I've been, I have not talked about those pragmatic, hands-on kinds of things that I've done. I passed the strongest anti-predatory lending law in the country, the state's first hate crimes law, got more money in the budget than any other Atlanta legislator for, Southwest Atlanta. So I'm just very, very happy, and gratified that we've been successful. I got I got an inside shot and an outside shot, and I use them both with great effect.
But you're one of your arch nemesis, a guy who doesn't like you. Mayor Kasim Reed says you wouldn't have gotten in the mayor's race. You wouldn't have given all it up. And now you're in. He's still carping away at you.
Is that right?
You guys don't like each other, do you?
Is that right?
You know, he talks about you very disparagingly.
Is that right? I thought you talked about him too.
Let
me say this, Maynard. When politicians talk bad about each other, there's one thing I know is going on. They're neglecting what's really important, and that is the people. While politicians talk bad about each other, Southwest Atlanta's being neglected. Right. Simpson Road, Bankhead Highway, Camilton Road, Cleveland Avenue, McDonough Boulevard. This isn't about whether I like this person or don't like that person. What this is about is stopping the neglect of neighborhoods in Atlanta. We should not be in a situation where in 30327, the lifespan is 84 years old. In 30310, it's 71 years old. 71 years.
Truly the tale of two cities.
A tale of two cities. And people have been talking about a tale of two cities and income inequality. And you know what I say? Hold it. You were down at City Hall when those two cities were created. When the neglect of communities like Hamilton Road were going on, all of these folk that are running now were down at City Hall. Atlanta 10 years ago was 20% gentrified. Even as we speak, it's 70% gentrified. At the end of the next mayoral term, at that rate, Atlanta will be 90% gentrified. All of these people who are running, either they were on city council or they were in administrative positions here at the city while this happened.
You are the only outsider.
I think
major competitor.
In reality, that's true. That, you have people, that's why I'm just really surprised when some people talk about displacement-free zone. Displacement-free zone. When they voted to displace 30 families, 30 African-American families in the Atlanta Avenue block of Peoplestown.
Name names. Who are we talking about?
No, everyone that is running for mayor voted for it. There was one person who doesn't vote on city council. They were quiet as a church mouse.
So you're saying many of these candidates you're running against are being disingenuous at best?
At best. See, the thing is, what I've learned and what I see, people will do anything and say anything to get elected. And they will tell lies. They'll distort the truth, and that's its reality. I met Mr. and Mrs. Darden, a couple in their 60s who live in Peoplestown, Maynard. They bought their house 30 years ago. And when they bought the house, the day that the house closed, they invited their pastor. They asked their pastor to come to the house, and they prayed on the front lawn, thanking God for their blessing of home ownership. They raised their children, had their grandchildren all through the house over the last 30 years. They played by the rules. They paid their bills. And guess what? They got a letter from City Hall saying, you got to move because we want to put a retention pond where your house is. 30 families got that same letter. 4 said, no, we're not going anywhere. Mr. and Mrs. Darden are one family, and they have no place to go. They have no place to go. They planned on living their life out.
That was their life plan.
That was their plan, to live in that house that means so much to them. And so that's why I get a little bit passionate when I hear people talk about displacement-free zones. And they voted to move this family out and 30 other families.
You're saying our government has become mean-spirited and uncaring?
And not only mean-spirited and uncaring, but they're duplicitous about it. They'll tell you, we've been doing these forums and debates for 8 months since January, 10 months. And they were asked early on, do you believe in development without displacement? Hands went up. Like somebody yanked them up in the air. But I made the point at one forum, and I don't know if it was appreciated, that while they talk about they believe in development without displacement, they voted time after time after time, in one way or the other, to do development that would lead to displacement.
Your points, you hit home. You hit hard. You're good.
No,
you're a great speaker. Is it making a difference?
What I want you to do, or anyone else to do, is tell me where I'm inaccurate. Yeah. You know, I'm telling the truth.
Is that making a difference, Vincent? May I call you Vincent? Mm-hmm. Is that making a difference, you think, in the election results, in the polls? Are people listening to you? I mean, you do make sense. You do come straight at them.
Well, you know, I've been gratified that at the response that we've had over these many years, and this year, as the election draws close, I've been gratified by having Bernie Sanders and Roy Barnes supporting me.
That was where I was going next. Yeah.
You know, our numbers are pretty good. We think we're in a position to have an impact on November 7th. We play to win.
What is the key to your winning? What's the voting coalition? Will it be in the black community? Will it be the south side of town, which you're arguing for? Will it be young millennials who are also behind you? I mean, you have an interesting dynamic of support, do you not?
Yeah, the path to winning, and I hate horse race questions. I like to talk about policy, how policy impacts the quality of life of real people, but I'm going to answer this question. We're going to have to make any black candidate, the reality is any black candidate has to get some white votes, right, and a white candidate has to get some black votes. So we're confident that, we've been in many, many movements. Going back, I don't know if you remember the Live Oak landfill fight.
I've been there.
Greatest environmental justice victory in the history of the city. This was long before I got elected. So we're going to put together our coalition of African American voters and white voters. You were and I just want to say, I read your article and saw your coverage, your video on the Bernie Sanders visit. Yeah. Exquisite.
Bernie Sanders,
exquisite.
Thank you.
Thank you. Some of the best reporting, bar none, on Bernie Sanders' visit. In any event, 2,500 people in the room.
Yes.
60 to 70% were white.
Yes.
So we have.
That's impressive, man.
We've got a rainbow coalition working here.
And they came to see you. The question I asked folks: did they come to see Bernie Sanders? They came to see you.
I'm glad of that.
Yet you also have a Killer Mike, a black activist, rap artist. I mean, you seem to have both sides of the fence.
Well, Sean King is supporting me. Our revolution. We've got more union support. 28 separate union organizations, unions, regionals, more union support than any mayoral candidate in the history of the city.
Wow. Why is it? What is it you're saying? What is it you're doing? What is it about Vincent Fort that seemingly called into question where Atlanta is? Is it the north side? Is it the south side? Is it working people, or is it the elite? Is it development, or is it affordable housing?
I mean, where does my support come from? Why?
Yeah.
Because it's not what I will do, it's what I have done. I've worked with union organizations, unions, for a long time. I was out there fighting with them, when other folk would run from them. Literally run from them. Wouldn't answer the phone. I would always be there. We'll always be there with working people. Anytime there's a fight for working people.
Is that what the clash we're seeing now? Is this what we're seeing in this race? Working people versus what?
Yeah. I mean, what you've had is City Hall kowtowing to billionaires and millionaires, carrying the water for the wealthy. So regular people in neighborhoods gone neglected.
Right.
So
you're saying black elected officials are carrying the water, basically, for millionaires and billionaires?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Many of them are, yes.
That's sad.
Well, it's
troubling, to say the least.
Well, but the thing is, what we've got to do, and see, when you said people weren't coming to see Bernie, they were coming to see me. No, what they were coming to see was a movement. They weren't coming to. This is not about personality. This is about, can we, in the dawn of the 21st century, can we create a movement in Atlanta which puts working people first?
It's happened in Birmingham, didn't it?
Happened in Birmingham, happened in Jackson, happened in New York City, happened in Newark, Los Angeles, other southern cities, Louisville or Nashville. it is a phenomenon of progressive big city mayors.
And it's a movement, you're saying?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It is. What you have is long-time infrastructure. I've been working in this city 30 years in neighborhoods. Lumumba in Jackson, been working a long time.
Right. And his dad.
But then when you layer on top of that the Bernie movement and the crystallization of progressive politics, then you've got a movement. And that's what we've created here, a movement in Atlanta. I mean, our campaign has a texture of something more than just a campaign. I know, and I said this when I first announced.
You said it with a riot smile, too. You said it.
Well, I said it on November 10th when we kicked off our campaign in the Westgate Shopping Plaza on Campbellton Road. I said then, if we run a, City Hall, on the steps at City Hall, vote for me, I'll set you free establishment campaign, we lose.
Right.
But if we create a movement, I have 10,000 donors. 10,000. Another campaign is making a big deal about having 2,000 or 3,000. Yeah. We've got 10,000 donors. We've got.
So you've not been bought and paid for?
No. No. The people who run City Hall are not on my side. I don't know why. I just think it is really surprising.
In the past, though, that would have been a death knell. The power brokers, the concessionaires, the contractors, airport vendors. Had you not had them, in the past political races, you couldn't have stood a chance in hell.
Yeah, that's true. But what is happening is that regular people, are saying, we have gone with the establishment time after time after time after time and see what it's gotten us. There are neighborhoods. There are neighborhoods in this city, that it's third world, brother.
Third world's true.
Third world.
I had a young man that told me last week. He said, listen, I'm 32, I got a family. He said, but what are all these black elected officials? What has City Hall done for the bluff? It's the same as it's always been.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was at the airport a couple of months ago for an event and was leaving out of the airport, and I saw a young lady in a custodial smock pushing the cart, the janitorial cart.
Right.
And she was probably in her 30s, 40s. I said, ma'am, how you doing? I told her I'm running for mayor, of course. She said, yeah, I live in Cleveland Avenue. And the Cleveland Avenue. I said, yeah. And I was going to ask her how much she made, but she told me I make $8.55 an hour. I said, is that right? I said, how you making it? She said, I couldn't pay my rent last week. I worked a double shift this week in order to pay my rent next week.
That's tough.
And so, she's working for us. She's working for a custodial company that has a contract with the city to clean up the airport. And the reality is that there are thousands of women like her in this city. Single mothers, working hard, working full time, and can't support themselves, can't pay the rent, can't feed their children, can't buy children clothes to go to school. That's not the Atlanta I want. And I hope it's not the Atlanta that the voters want. I don't think it is.
How do you change that if elected, when elected? How, as mayor, can you change that? It seems like the process has already died in the womb.
No.
Corruption seems to be ingrained in City Hall.
See, the thing is, when you have neglect of neighborhoods, oftentimes you have corruption of elected officials. If they neglect neighborhoods, if they it goes hand in hand. They neglect the people that need help because they believe that they should enrich themselves at the expense of everybody else. So it's not uncommon to find deep corruption and as well as deep neglect. But a mayor who's honest and is focused on making sure that people prosper, though that mayor can have an impact on that woman's life. He cannot tell that, technically he cannot tell that vendor, you have to pay that woman $15 an hour. But there are ways you can get the message to the vendor that they would be less likely to get a contract if they did not, if they don't pay that woman a living wage.
Senator, you can actually hold out a hope to that woman. Can you get that woman and others like her to the polls to vote for you?
I think so. I think when she hears my message, the thing is, people lament about the lack of engagement in the civic process voting, and there's no one in this city who cares more about people voting than I do. But at the same time, I understand one thing. You got to give people something to vote for. And what you have in this city is when people feel as if City Hall is rigged for the rich and the poor have no chance, when they think that billionaires and millionaires get corporate welfare for stadia, then they say to themselves, why should I go vote? Well, we're giving them a reason to vote. We're going to change City Hall. We're going to change this city. And it ain't for a little while. It's going to be permanent.
If elected, you'll have a new city council president, virtually a new city council. Is that what's going to help you lead as well, this new cadre of folk?
To be honest with you, I think that the city council has been more progressive than the administration. So I think, assembling the 8 votes on city council is going to be possible to get things done.
Yes,
what you have, and particularly, one of the good things about having all these people on city council running for mayor is they'll be out of the way. Right. Because they've got a lot of experience. They have over 50 years of experience, but it's all the wrong experience. It's all the experience working for,
But it concerns a lot of
developers.
Concerns a lot of people that we have so many qualified black candidates running for mayor. That those numbers help you or hurt you?
I came from an event on my way over here.
Yes.
I came from an event. And I said to those folk, I know people are confused. There's so many candidates running. But the reality is this. Don't vote for anybody who votes to displace people. It becomes very simple. Don't vote for anyone that displaces people. Don't vote for anybody who takes money from corrupt airport vendors. It ain't hard. At the end of the day, they've been down there all this time, and this is what we've gotten from them. At the end of the day, I don't think it's a tough decision, but we got to see, most people don't know that every one of them, voted to displace people in People's House. Most people don't know that when Morris Brown was being squeezed by the administration and being squeezed by Invest Atlanta, that none of them said one mumbling word. Not one politician in this town. I saw politicians running the other way. What I did is I joined with the community, went over and fought and created a movement called Hands Off Morris Brown.
Can activism really turn into elective office?
Yes.
That's the movement you're talking about, because that would be a movement. That's rarely been the case in my history, in my past. You're saying recently that's been the case.
Ross Baraka in Newark.
Yeah, sure. I'm from Newark.
Is an activist that became mayor
because of his dad.
Mm-hmm. And came out of an activist family. Chokwe Lumumba, his daddy was an activist. So it is not. Marion Barry was a SNCC organizer, so it's not uncommon for African American elected officials to come out of movements.
Do you really feel like this is your time, though? Do you know?
I think that our movement is made for a time like this. I really do.
Because yesterday in a forum, you talked about the hypocrisy of many of your opponents. Mm-hmm. And I think that rang a bell with some people. Could you talk about that just a bit?
Yeah, what you have is people that say, you should live by a certain standard, I'm going to live by another standard. I'm not going to pay my water bill, but you have to pay yours. You don't pay your water bill, Ms. Johnson on Ashby Street don't pay her water bill, it gets cut off. She has to go to the Walmart and get her some water, bottled water. You don't pay yours for 7 years. You keep your water on. That kind of double standard sticks in the craw of people.
And you're talking about keep your last bottoms.
For a Buckhead high-rise luxury condo, not to pay their bill, owe $1 million for 10 years, and then at the end of the day, after City Council at first Watershed said, no, our bad, you don't have to pay any of it. Then they said, well, you just pay $138,000 out of the $1 million. People see that. They're paying the highest water bills in the country.
And gotta pay it.
Gotta pay it, Doc. Gotta pay that water bill. And other folk don't pay theirs. Crazy. It's infuriating. And so people understand just what's going on. And I think people are fired up at this point to say, nah, we got to do things a different way, a better way in Atlanta.
His name is Senator Vincent Fort. He's an activist and may well be the surprising new mayor of the city of Atlanta.
Now, Maynard, will you promise me one thing? When you quote me in your stories, will you?
See, and he's always joking at me about my writing.
Will you? No, you are one of the best writers in town. I read every political writer in the city, and you write with a flair that is not often seen. So we appreciate, what you contributed to this city. Telling the truth. You put stuff out that other folk are afraid to write. You know that. So I appreciate you so much, man. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here with us. I also want to thank my partner, probably the best political commentator in town. This is his stage, this is his voice. And he cuts to the truth. My friend and partner, Jim, welcome.
All right, let's thank all of the candidates and all of the people for tonight. Let's have a big round of applause tonight. Brother Fort does come from a rich legacy of activists that have become political leaders, senators, congressmen in Chicago, New York. All of the major cities have had activists become councilmen, mayors, senators, all of that, except Atlanta. Atlanta, to be the so-called black capital of the world, has the most docile leaders on the planet. They will not take positions that offend anybody. That's because life is good. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Newsmakers.